These are 20 of the worst Formula 3 crashes ever. Prepare to see smashes from recent years, as well as some from the archives you've definitely never seen before. This is Racers Reverie, and these are the worst Formula 3 crashes ever. First on our list is a moment from 2018 that shook the entire world, and that's no exaggeration. The crash was so bad it made news stations that usually don't even cover motorsport, but when you see the crash, you'll see why. 17-year-old Sophia Floersch was racing in the infamous Macau Grand Prix, known for hosting F3 every year. The streets are incredibly tight, and danger is around every single corner, but unluckily for Sophia, she went off in the worst possible place on the whole track. She hit another car and couldn't slow down, sending her into the path of a badly placed curb. At 170 miles per hour, her car launched into the air and flew straight over the other cars on track. It went so high, it completely missed the crash barrier and went headfirst into the fence with a horrific thud. The crash happened so fast that it was hard to see, but what was obvious was that the car got mangled in the fence at a brutal angle. She won't forget that one anytime soon. Another amazing airborne moment happened just 1 year later, this time at the Monza circuit in Italy. Alex Peroni was driving for Campos Racing in the first race of the weekend when his life flashed before his eyes. During the race, he went wide at the Parabolica corner and, unluckily for him, came across a broken piece of sausage curb on the outside of the track. He hit it at full speed and it launched him into the air at an incredible angle, somersaulting mid-air and landing him on top of the barrier and into the fence.
I think we now can show you what happened to Alex Peroni. Oh my goodness me. That is a horrific sight.
It was unlike any other crash in F3 history, but he was extremely lucky to not land on his head, with the crash barrier missing it by mere centimeters. Come on, Alex, when your engineer asked for a flying lap, that's not what he meant. The 2012 GP3 season served up another flying F3 car, with Connor Daly pulling the short straw that day. They were racing on the famed streets of Monaco, where the walls and fences are about as close as physically possible at every point, and Connor Daly found out the hard way why it's better to keep your car inside them, because exiting the tunnel he made contact with another car at close to 170 miles per hour. He hit the back of his rival and got launched directly into the air, completely losing control of his car. He was tossed into the fence at a horrible angle, instantly shredding parts from his car in a monumental impact. It was amazing to see the fence do its job, because he would have been going for a swim in the harbour otherwise, just like the good old F1 days in Monte Carlo.
Elias then goes to the right, so Daly moves to the left, so he goes to cover it, and Daly goes to the left, and then Saranovic then moves to the left again. Make the one move. Sorry, but for me that was more than one move.
Talking about the good old days, I had to go back to the shelf for this one, but I think you'll enjoy it. Back in 1991, Oswaldo Negri was racing in F3 at Silverstone, and while the track layout looked a bit different, the danger was still as high. Oz drove into the back of his competitor in the braking zone, lifting his car over his rivals and into the air at high speed. It instantly flipped over and rolled violently, ripping wheels and bodywork off the car. But the worst part came when he hit the tyre barrier hard at a terrible angle, bringing him to a sudden stop from high speed and leaving him hanging upside down. There's no doubt that this one hurt the next morning. Now, if you think you've seen some crazy crashes already, you haven't seen anything yet, because this next one is more like something from a Hollywood blockbuster movie than a real race. But before we check it out, please drop a like on this video if you're enjoying it, and subscribe to our channel for more motorsports content just like this. Well, for the driver's sake, hopefully there's no more crashes as wild as this one, because the 2016 race at the Red Bull Ring gave us this spectacular spectacular moment. Ryan Tvita spun and was stuck in the middle of the track in a very bad spot, and to make matters worse, he sprayed dust behind him so that nobody could see his car as they drove around at 160 miles per hour. So, before he had time to even think about moving out of the way, he was hit at colossal speed by Peter Lee, was fired straight into the air. He spiraled around in the air at a huge height, and at the same time, Pedro Piquet hit Tvita and suffered a similarly massive shunt.
I know we have only 7.5 minutes plus 1 lap left. Oh my!
Huge accident, a huge off. Ryan Dieter had spun, Piquet is involved, there was another car that's airborne as well, and the race is being stopped straight away. Red flag shown.
There's no doubt that this was one of the scariest crashes in modern motorsport. As we all know by now, Spa-Francorchamps is good at producing not just good racing, but also the biggest crashes possible thanks to its high-speed nature. And 2015 was no different, with Gustavo Meneses being the unlucky one in this ferocious flip. At the end of the Kemmel Straight, the cars were approaching 180 miles per hour when Meneses suddenly made contact with a car he was battling. The force sent him flying, and before he knew it, he was completely vertical and doing a full-on backflip. He made a heavy impact with the barrier while upside down, with the railing narrowly missing his head in what could have been an even worse incident. The car skated along the barrier before sliding back into the track upside down, barely missing the other cars, and even he said he skimmed his head off the ground. It's safe to say that Spa doesn't mess around. And the drivers don't mess around either, because while F3 is known to produce incredible racing, it also has no shortage of incredible crashes. Just take this one as an example. At the Norris Ring in 2018, Dan Tickham, everyone's favourite driver, well, favourite one to hate that is, stalled his car on the grid as the lights went out. But he's not the first driver to ever do this, so I guess we'll give him a pass. But it was Ami Avadianathan, who definitely doesn't deserve a pass after this absolutely ridiculous piece of driving. Because he had an eternity to avoid Tickham's stalled car, but still couldn't manage to just drive around it. He smashed straight into the stationary Tickham at incredible speed, causing a devastating crash for both drivers.
One get away, and the one that did not get away and has been really clattered into, I am convinced, is the Red Bull liveried car.
I hope he headed straight for an eye test after that moronic bit of racing. And while we're talking about crazy bits of racing, this moment in the 2022 sprint race at Spa crossed the line too. This time it was Oliver Goethe and Zane Maloney who found the wall in the biggest way possible. Maloney was racing Goethe hard around one of the highest speed corners on the entire track, which is fine if you give the other guy enough space. But they must have forgotten about that part, because they banged wheels and sent each other straight into the gravel. The two hit the wall at incredible speed, with Maloney hitting it almost head first and flipping over after a mega impact with the barrier, destroying his car in the process. We're heading back to the Macau Grand Prix for this next crash, courtesy of the 2014 edition of the F3 Classic. The massive grid of cars made it through the first corner, but that was about as far as most of them got. The third and fourth place drivers ran each other into the wall on the outside of Turn 2, smacking the wall and bouncing back onto the track. It blocked half the road and caused complete chaos for the whole pack behind them, creating a massive pileup. One of the cars hit it at a huge speed and got launched over the tyre barrier and into the fence in a very dangerous accident. Like Jolyon Palmer said, you have to be alert on a street circuit. But it's not just a street circuit you have to be alert on, because even the most unassuming pieces of racetrack can be absolutely deadly. And this was proven in the F3 race at Alton Park in 2016, when we witnessed one of the most shocking crashes in all of motorsport's history. It was the unfortunate Ami Avadianathan again, who was attempting a perfectly safe overtake on a competitor on the straight, but as they approached a kink in the road, he got squeezed by his rival and lost control of his car. It dug into the grass and was instantly sent airborne as if it had been catapulted into the sky. It reached a ridiculous height, twisting and turning in midair until crashing back down to earth with a massive impact. This truly terrifying crash is a great reminder to always check your mirrors. Now let's head down under for this mental piece of F3 action in Melbourne, where Graham Holmes got a bit more action than he signed up for. This race in 2010 saw Holmes battling competitor John Boothman side by side through a high-speed section, and when they reached a flat-out kink in the road, they found out that 2 into 1 doesn't go. Holmes was forced over a curb at 200 km an hour, and as he hit it, it lifted the front of his car completely off the ground. He went completely vertical as his car soared through the air, smashing the fence hard at a brutal angle. He slid down the guardrail and back onto the track upside down. Not a good day at the office. Another driver who was caught out in a high-speed corner was Enzo Bortoleto during his race in the UK. The F3 grid took on the Rockingham track in 2016, and this young Brazilian's race got turned upside down. Quite literally. He was battling a rival side by side, and the two cars came together, flipping Bortoleto into the air. His car barrel rolled, hit the ground, and did 2 front flips at huge speed, crashing off the ground and completely smashing his car. These F3 cars sure do love flipping out of control.
Looking for a way past was Tarun ready, and a huge off there at Chapman Curve. Upside down and in the gravel, and that, I fear, is going to bring out the red flag. The car that's off, incidentally, is that of Enzo Bortoleto.
The most common place for crashes at Spa are at the famous corners like Eau Rouge and Blanchimont, but they can happen at the very first corner too. Just check out this F3 race in 2010. The pack barely got through La Source before they all started running wide and smashing into each other. These two drivers made contact in an extremely hard side impact, with one car flying over the other, breaking its wing and wrecking both cars. Another strange start happened the same year at Silverstone, when these two drivers came together before the lights even went out. The drivers were starting their warm-up lap when Felipe Nasr stalled on the grid and was left as a sitting duck. Everyone else managed to avoid Nasr, but Manesha Idafar was coming at high speed and must have been looking around him at the scenery, because he drove into the back of Nasr in a completely ridiculous move. He smashed Nasr's car hard, lifting it into the air and breaking its rear wing and his own front wing in the process. Before his F1 days, Alexander Albon came up through the ranks and was racing in F3 in 2016, and in the Abu Dhabi round, he was shaken up by this bad impact. While going down the back straight, Albon was hit from behind and started to lose control straight away. His car veered off the track at 150 miles per hour and he hit the barrier hard. As he smashed into the wall head first, his car spun around and got destroyed as it made contact with the barrier yet again in a secondary impact.
Hughes, le Britannique de Dams. Attention derrière, un énorme accident.
Back to Spa for this next crash, and it's one of the worst in recent memory from the brutal Belgian track. Driver Konstantin Terestchenko was making his debut, and it didn't exactly go smoothly for the 20-year-old Russian. At the last chance, it looked like he completely forgot to brake and went sailing off the track. He hit the curb and it launched him into the air, barely knocking off any speed in the process. He floated through the air at a huge height, and his car came crashing down on its side, instantly rolling over, breaking up and bursting into flames. Talk about a baptism of fire for the rookie. This 2013 crash was similarly wild and involved Finnish driver Patrick Kujala, who was involved in a major crash at Silverstone. He misjudged how fast his rival David Fumanelli was driving and ran straight into the back of him, causing his Koiranen car to flip over the top of Fumanelli in a split second. The car turned into a vicious roll and smashed off the ground before rolling over a second time and ending up in the wall. When F3 visited Hungary in 2011, Luciano Bacchetta didn't even make it through practice before having this monster crash in the first half of the lap. He lost control of his car and went off the track at high speed, straight into the barrier. As he hit it, his car flew upwards and twisted mid-air, landing back onto the barrier upside down and almost landing on his head. As the marshals ducked for cover, the car barrel rolled twice more before coming to a rest upside down in a less than ideal place. Giuliano Alesi, yes, the son of the ex-Ferrari F1 driver Jean Alesi, was racing at the Red Bull Ring in 2016 when he suffered this mega head-on crash in practice. As he was approaching turn 1, his brakes failed and he was sent straight on at the top speed of almost 180 miles per hour. He had no choice but to hit the tyre barrier headfirst, causing a devastating crash for the young Frenchman as the car got buried in the tyres momentarily.
He's just, he's off the road! Huge crash for Lacey, who had just posted the second fastest time.
It registered 46G and he had to withdraw from the rest of the weekend. It was definitely one of the hardest hits that corner has ever seen. The 2013 race in Hungary also saw a massive hit for Emanuele Zonzini and Luis Sassilva when they came together coming out of turn 1. Sassilva got hit by Zonzini and ran over the top of his car as they both lost control. His car rolled over instantly and almost hit Zonzini's head in an extremely close call, before landing back on the track with a big impact. But that's enough carnage for today, after 20 of the worst Formula 3 crashes in history. These wrecks from the popular feeder series were chaotic, but luckily everyone survived to tell the tale. Let me know in the comments which crash you thought was the worst, and let us know if we missed any. And if you want to see more feeder series carnage, click here to watch our video on the worst F2 crashes ever. Please drop a like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss any videos in the future. This was Racers Reverie. See you next time.